Today I'm here with Jon. He's one of the local pro tennis players in the area. The great thing about him is he's been doing this for years. I'm going to have him introduce himself and get what he feels as the proper introduction because he's got way too much background for me to say what he is and what he does. So, Jon, so tell the viewers a little bit about your background.
I've been in tennis for 34 years, teaching all of that time, and I I have a USBTA certification, a PTR certification, USBTA high performance certification, which basically just means I suffered a week of intense torture and to get that certification, but it was great. Um, and I've been working. I usually work mostly with about a third of my clients are adults and 2/3 are juniors, and about 75% of my junior clients are female athletes.
So, how did you get into working with a lot of female athletes? Because I know I've had a couple of your clients, so they're doing they did really good. So, how did you? Why the difference in disparity between the boys and the girls? What do you think?
Pretty simple. I have four daughters, and to my oldest and my third both played college tennis, and I just gravitated towards always looking for players for them to train with and hit with, and travel with. So I think that was a big part of it.
So, what areas do you cover? I know you live in Fort Wayne, so it's a nice little drive up here. So, what schools have are you working with, and have you worked with?
Wow. In the area, uh, players from Penn, Marion, Northridge, Westview, Elkhart, Northwood. Those are to name a few. And then in the Fort Wayne area, Carroll, Bishop Dwenger, Homestead. Those are some of the schools. So there's quite a variety.
Well, I know you do assistant coaching at your daughter's college.
Yep.
So,
And
how is that different? How do you feel that's different being able to be at that level and working with the high school girls same time? What view does it give you
I think
from
there's
college perspective to high school?
college perspective it's definitely different. I think the numbers 7% of all high school athletes have the opportunity to play at the collegiate level. So the attitude, there may be one or two players on a high school team um, that want to play in college. Most don't. Most are there for the social aspect, and college, it's the most are there to win. So I think it's and not that high school players don't want to win. I think that just the attitude, the mentality is different, and not because they don't want to be that player. I think that a lot of it is just they're not educated.
Yeah.
They don't know what it takes to be have that opportunity to play at the next level, and big part of that is fitness.
What do you think has been your most eye opener training tennis athletes once you started really training? What do you think was a good aha moment for you for things that while you're as a tennis player yourself when you started coaching? What is something that opened up your eyes a lot
um
when it comes with working with the kids?
what it Are you talking about like working with high level athletes,
Yeah.
or just uh I think probably the most eye opening issue that I've experienced, or something that's happened over time, has been the need for to be focused more on the off court. The nutrition is huge. The sleep, the fitness part of things, the way to prepare them for the 60 to 90 minutes of intense warfare, so to speak.
And that could be one match in 7-match weekend.
Correct. Yes. I mean, they can play 5 matches in a day if they're playing doubles. So you have singles and doubles, and the body and the mind it's incredible to see what they go through. And I think, having experienced some of that myself, and then watching what happens when the athletes aren't prepared for that, has been probably the most eye-opening experience. It's not just what you do on the court with them.
You were talking about the nutrition. I think we've dealt with this with Maddie, your daughter, especially when she's doing like 3-hour matches and gets an hour break and goes right back in. And we've had to work with this for a while. What is your biggest takeaway on, like, if you have a big match weekend, how should they prepare? What do you think? What helped Maddie prepare when she was doing her stuff that you saw that helped? Especially when you guys were at nationals and it was just one after another after another.
Right. A lot had to do with 3 days, 2 to 3 days beforehand. She'd start to really hydrate, carry water around everywhere she went, and what she ate, really trying to load up. and rest. The other part of it was rest. So the workouts, the on-court training tapered down a lot beforehand. So she was as fresh as she could be. She was well rested, she was well fed, and she was well hydrated. And then immediately after, and that's getting ready for the match. And then obviously there's a stretching and a whole routine to get ready for each match, and then the recovery after, the chocolate milk, and again, the stretching, the rolling, and the food intake, and trying to time that all between, if you only have an hour or if you have 2 hours, that has a huge difference on how much you can put in the body. But I think
you can't put too much as heavy that's going to sit on you while you're trying to play.
Correct. And so we even have Cliff Bars. She'd be munched on Cliff Bars, banana on changeovers. So that's kind of the routine. It's a sip of the Hydrolyte for every 2 sips of water, and a bite of Cliff Bar.
Yeah, the electrolytes is like, especially it's huge when they're playing over and over again consistently. They're sweating out everything they've got. So if they're not getting back in, it's definitely crazy how much it can affect her performance.
Does. It's amazing. Yeah, for sure.
So tell viewers so if somebody's trained with you, what type of training you got? Are you group? Are you personal training? Are you small group personal training? And if so, if any of these or all these, what are the different things?
Well, I'm a private coach, and so most of what I do is small. I have 70 to 75 clients. That's my base that I work with, from adults to juniors. And it really, my training is based on the needs of the athlete. So if they're interested in getting a lesson, once a week or once every other week, just to keep things intact for whether it's high school season, adults, I see a lot more of the adults on a regular basis. If they're especially during their competitive season, they play USCA league matches. So I have a higher frequency of adults that participate in drills. But most of what I do is individual or small group. Yeah. And small group can be really between 3 and 6. Yep.
not too bad. So where are you training out of right now for if people wanted to be able to train with you?
I train at Pinewood Elementary School. It's a public park. It's not an elementary school. It's a park behind the. I have a client who has their own indoor court in Wakarusa, and I have another client who has their indoor court in Shipshewana. So those are the three main places, and then during the summertime when there's not a high school season to conflict, then I'll teach out of Jimtown, Northridge, and Westview high schools.
So do you got something big coming up? I know I saw some posts for some of the rec park stuff. So are you going to be part of that? And what is it?
Uh, the rec, the Elkhort's Park and Rec, that was a Tolson Center, and it was a special program. It was kind of they wanted to do some introductory tennis lessons, and we offered that for juniors between the ages of 7 and 10. And we had 12 kids participate, and it was more of a kind of a community outreach type of a program, and expose some kids to some tennis instruction that they don't normally get at the Tolson Center.
Gotcha. With the coronavirus, what are some of the things you've seen differences on how prepared the players are from last year prior to the season coming up for high school and then this year? So, because right around the time was when everything started shutting down, so people were still going before last season.
Right.
What are the things you're seeing with the tennis players going into this high school season, as in like fitness level?
It's a little hard to gauge because of the players that I work with. Well, you work with them as well.
Yeah.
So we treated the corona issue as if there were going to have a season. So that was always the thought, and the way that I was able to motivate them, because that was, I think, probably one of the things that was most difficult during the last year, was to try to figure out how to motivate someone to train for a season that
you don't know
may or may not happen. So I'd say that was one of the hardest parts. And I lost some motivation from some students, which, they didn't want to do some things, do some training, I think that's normal. So I think that the usual, I'd say probably the typical high school tennis player comes to season out of shape. I mean, there's not much of an off-season training where they may occasionally play in a tournament, take some lessons here or there, participate in a summer camp, for a couple of weeks, but definitely no fitness, and nothing really, I would say, for the most part, regular in the tennis training.
Like most people, they wait till the last month to 2 months prior.
Correct.
And then try to stack it all in.
That's right. I'm very busy the month leading up to girls season and the month leading up to boys season. Yeah.
So what would you say is the one thing that sets the in your kids and the ones that end up in college, the mindset? What is the difference between the best and those, like, for the mindset, and those who are just recreational? What would make somebody be able to have that mindset for like the college level? What have you seen?
Oh man. Someone who will work when the others aren't, and someone who will, meaning that they'll sacrifice a social event to go play in a tournament or to train, in that regard. Someone who will do whatever you say, whatever I tell them to do, they're going to do. Someone who on their own will watch video and footage of tennis players, and someone who's willing to work on all components of training to be at the college level, and that includes the physical, the mental, the nutrition. You can say that you want to be an athlete, but you know, a college athlete, you have to have all aspects of that, not just the tennis part, but the off court.
What? Okay, so speaking of college, D1, D2, D3, NAIA, it can get confusing when it comes to which one somebody wants to go to. Even NAIA, there's even levels inside there that I've realized.
Hmm.
What would you say the difference is? Let's take the D1 situation. What do you think the differences in players are, like a D1 player, D2, or D3, on how they perform?
I think I think it's probably demand on the athlete. If you're a D1, if you're a D1 athlete, then you're owned essentially. D2 can be that way. It really a lot depends on the program. Um, there's just not much. It depends on the program. I mean, D1 is not like the mecca of all tennis.
Yeah.
And that mentality has been around, and it's still pretty prevalent. But there are some incredible tennis players that play in JUCO and NAIA.
I was going to say that was my next brought up. I go, NAIA, I know, is their own little world when it comes to players. So it's like going, you've got a lot of different high level players that play in that. And some people, like you just said, think, oh, D1, D2, D3, and then they think NAIA.
Right.
And they don't realize that like NAIA actually has scholarships. It's like going, I know like Goshen College, the Megan's getting 85% paid for while going just to Goshen College and playing a tennis program.
Right.
So it's not the highest end tennis program, but she's still getting a scholarship played for.
She is. She's got a college scholarship. Yep.
So yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is a lot of the people, like you said, they misinterpret, NCAA versus NAIA, and they don't realize that there are scholarships out there. But at the same time, just because it's NAIA doesn't mean that the players are going to be any worse than, or a lot of times it could be better because they're coming from countries overseas and coming over here, and they'll work their butts off.
That's right. Yep, that's right.
So
yeah.
So when your favorite thing to do on the tennis court, what is your one thing that you know that all the your players typically need? It's the last question. So just like, what do you think you can help the players that come to you? What's the biggest things that you're good at helping them with?
Well, I'm really good at taking things apart. So that's probably my best strength, is to identify what's causing some inefficiencies, and whether it's movement, stroke, I mean, even equipment can be part of that too. But just identifying some of the areas that are causing the players' problems, and then coming up with a solution, which could be, if it's a lesson, if it's a one time, or hey, this is going to be only for a week or so, I'm going to have you for a couple of days, then it's a solution that fits, whatever their situation is. So that's probably my strength.
Gotcha. So thanks for actually being able to take the time out for this.
Sure.
I know it's a busy Easter week and spring break week. Again, thanks very much, and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye, Jon.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for Bare Essentials on Fitness today. If you like it, subscribe to a podcast, as well as share it out to others that may be in the same interest. At any point in time, leave a question. Hopefully we can get back to you and give you the information that you're looking for. Again, thank you very much. This is Coach Chris from Bare Fitness. you.